Hi, and welcome to another episode of Mic Drop with me, Mike Turner. I'm our Director of Development and Integration at Gap Relief. And on this mini talk show, we take time to interview various practitioners and partners in the Gap Relief Network. And today I'm very excited to introduce our guest. Joining us on the show today is a Gap Relief therapist named Andrew Munneke. Andrew has been practicing as a therapist for over a year now and is joining us today specifically in honor of National Adoption Month to talk through his experience in life as an adoptee.
Yeah.
Andrew, thanks for joining us on the show today.
Yeah, absolutely. Excited to be here. I like that shirt, mic drop.
Yeah, thanks. You know, there was a really smart guy. I can't remember his name.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to think about who would come up with a pun like that.
Did you?
I haven't been known for my puns.
Andrew Munneke, everybody, came up with the mic drop idea. That was all it was at the time. He's taking credit for it every step of the way.
Yep, every step of the way. If you like it, it's my idea. If you don't, blame him.
We like it. Andrew, okay, you're here on the show today to talk through your experience as an adoptee. Again, we're doing a lot of conversations around adoption for National Adoption Month.
For sure.
Obviously, we can kind of lean into the stereotypes a little bit around adoption. I feel like as a watcher of movies, I have a pretty good read on your life. I've seen The Blind Side.
Oh, yeah.
Saw that movie Instant Family.
Yeah.
So I feel like I have a pretty good read on
most
for an adoptee.
Most adoptees end up,
pretty much
playing in the NFL.
Yeah.
The
media's got it right.
That's our story.
Okay. That's all your story. Okay.
Yep.
That's interesting. Do we want to wrap or do you?
Yeah, that's all I really need to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about what you are adopted.
Yes.
And you've lived a good number of years now. I'd say 55 or 60.
55 or 60 minus 8.
Okay.
Or 40. I'm 42. I can't do math. I can't do math live. This is hard.
With at Gap Relief, we work with all aspects of the adoption journey, right? And we know that there are multiple parties involved in any adoption. There's the birth family, there's the adopting family, and of course there is the adoptee. And that's a lot of perspectives. And you in particular, coming in as an adopted person, have that perspective, and we'd love to hear from your journey, from your experiences. What wisdom do you give us around the perspective of an adoptee in that situation? Yeah,
that's good. Because the one thing I want to make clear right off the bat, obviously I'm not speaking for every adoptee out there. My story is my story. There's some things that an adoptee might relate and connect to. There's other things they might not at all, right? And so you mentioned the three different dynamics. There's obviously the adoptive family who actually brings a child into their home. There is the birth family and the birth mother and what that experience is like for them. And then there's the adoptee, right? And all three of those stories are unique. All three of those are different. But the one thing that kind of unifies them all is this sense of loss, right? And that's where every adoption story begins. That something happened that shouldn't have happened. Like there was something that was broken or just something that wasn't ideal. And I think we missed that a lot. So when I was adopted in 1982, all adoptions were closed adoptions, right? And that means no connection with birth mom, no connections with birth dad if they want to be involved, no knowledge. I didn't get a name. I didn't get any stat sheets. I didn't get anything like that. Kurt Thompson has this quote. He's a Christian psychologist, and he says, everybody is born into this world looking for somebody who's looking for them. And when you're adopted, what's really hard, what I don't think people realize, is that your first moment, you're robbed of that, right? And so nowadays you're born, you get put on skin to skin, that feeling the mom's heartbeat, that rhythm that's supposed to bring comfort, that's supposed to bring touch, that's supposed to remind you into the womb. And when I was born, you get wrapped into a blanket and you get pushed in a cart into a nursery. Not to be held, not to be comforted, not to have that sense of, is someone out here for me, right? And that does something in our nervous system. That's something to our brain. I'm not even talking about prenatal stuff. I'm not even talking about if what we know now about how our nervous systems and brains are developed depending on what type of hormones are happening within the biological mother, if there's full of cortisol, how that's affecting the baby's brain, if there's a lot of shame, or even if there's a lot of joy or hope or dopamine release. Like, all that goes into how a baby's nervous system is developed. But the very first moment that an adoptee has is loss. And that's something that I wasn't aware of, couldn't articulate in that way, but that is something that always stuck with me, right? This idea of, is someone looking out for me? Is there someone actually looking for me? Because my first moment was someone not. And that showed itself up in a lot of different ways. It showed itself up with low self-esteem, low self-worth, not knowing myself, not trusting my own voice, not trusting my own perspective, this feeling of, is life better for me than be even not here or not? Like, these really deep, tough things I constantly wrestle with. But that was the sense that I always run with. Now, that doesn't mean that adoptees can't have that part healed or have that part, redeemed or restored, because I definitely had to go through my work. I had to understand my story. And now I'm very comfortable in my own skin. I'm able to joke about Lord of the Rings stuff and nerdy stuff with you and not worry, does Mike think I'm cool? It's like, I think I'm pretty cool. I like Lord of the Rings, but you're pretty cool too, and you like Lord of the Rings as well. So that's like the quick snap overview.
Yeah.
I realize there's a lot of places we can kind of dive
that's
deeper
really
into
good.
that. But
And I want to first of all say just thank you for your candor.
yeah.
And for sharing that with us. I think one of the things that was running through my head is, as you share that, and you think, we're in National Adoption Month right now, and we have a lot of people that are probably interacting with adoption as a concept in their mind. Maybe they don't have hands-on experience, or maybe they know somebody who does, based on what you just shared with us.
Yeah.
And obviously, there's a need to somewhat extrapolate to the average lived experience of an adoptee. What you shared is, like, you certainly can't speak for everybody, but if you could hand our audience some insider wisdom kind of packed up from what you just shared to, like, what are maybe misconceptions people can hold about adopted peoples? What maybe misconceptions have you encountered that you would love to help people kind of think through differently?
Yeah, that's a really hard question. I think there's a couple of misconceptions, at least I felt for me, and I think the first one is that people automatically assume that, oh, do you want to be reunited with your family? Do you want to be reunited with your adopted, or with your biological mother who gave you birth? And this is, again, just for me and my story, that's a weird tension for me. The tension is, I am both extremely grateful for her. Like, I am so just like in awe of her that I don't know too much about her, right? But I do know that she was young, and I do know that she had a lot of personal sacrifice in order to give me the term and put me up for adoption. So there's one point, like, I'm super, super grateful for her. And I would want nothing more than to sit and go, thank you. This is my life now. These are my 3 kids, right, that are in the world because of that choice. But sometimes when people ask the question of, like, oh, do you want to meet your biological family? To me, it's always this weird shift of going, like, well, that means that your family isn't your real family, or you belong somewhere else. And with someone who has a deficit of belonging, for me personally, which I feel like most adoptees have, that's a weird, jolting question for me. So I would prefer someone to say, are you curious about your biological family? Have you thought, like, asking a more curious question than, like, hey, have you searched for your mom yet? That's always that weird kind of jolting thing. And so
it feels like a curiosity.
Curiosity is like, hey, are you curious about this? Have you thought about exploring this? I wonder what your thoughts are on this. And I know, I got adopted into a very loving family, and they were very grateful, and they are my mom and dad. But there also wasn't a lot of curiosity there either that allowed that to express. And so there's no help of not being curious, Like, here's some example, like these little things that happen to you when you grow up that you don't think much, which is, like, I remember in 7th grade, I had a homework assignment. It was a genetic assignment. So go home and see if you have attached earlobes or not. If your parents have attached earlobes, what's your eye color? Do your parents have your eye color? What's your nose? Do you share? And these things you look at and go like, I have no one.
Yeah.
And the question that goes in is like, which face am I reflecting in the mirror? Who's walking around who has these same characteristics, these same qualities, and I don't know. So there's always a question of where am I from? What's that story there? And that curiosity is really good and needed, right? And so how do you explore that? Let them explore what that is. Because if you're a parent of an adoptee, you adopt a kid, there might be some interest there. There might not be some interest there. Also know if they have curiosity for their birth parents and their biological parents, that's not a rejection of you. That's not me saying, hey, I didn't want you as my parents, but I can't help but wonder, as I said, what other faces in the mirror? Do I have brothers and sisters that are biological out there? What's their interest? What's their joy?
Yeah.
And the hard part is some of those come from good stories and some of those don't come from good stories. Like there's some sad moments there on the other side of those questions, but they're normal, right? Other little things too that you run into growing up is, and now I'm 42 years old, 42. I'm 42. Not
only
60,
42.
Only 42. But still, when I go to a doctor and they ask me, hey, what's your family of heart disease? I just go, I don't know. It's a weird question to constantly be reminded of not knowing where you belong. And if you haven't done your work of understanding what's that wound there and what has healed it, what have I processed within that can still come up a lot. So I don't know if I answer your question. I'm really just kind of riffing. You're following my brain.
I think it was wonderful, and that's exactly what we invited you on to do. I think my last question before we wrap, I would love to continue to tease out. I feel like what you even just handed me is your lived experience. There are so many things that I would not think about as just constant and subtle reminders that you have in your life, that your journey is very different than the average journey. So as we think about honoring adoptees, whether we are an adoptive family or just purely like, hey, I know somebody who's adopted. Is there any last parting gift that you would give us to encourage us to honor the people around us and remember that somebody else's journey might look really different?
That's really good. I mean, like I said, always remember every adoption story, as I said, begins with a loss. And I want to walk this carefully because I don't want to disparage anyone's story. But I think as an adoptee, sometimes when I see some parents who adopt a child, their first thought is, oh, our family's completed, or oh, we're finally completed as a family. And I know exactly what they're saying, and I know exactly their heart, their joy. It's grateful joy, and I want to celebrate that grateful joy with them. But the asterisk behind all that is like, but there had to be a loss for your family to be complete, And I think sometimes we don't honor that, or we don't make space for that. And some of the reason why is because maybe we don't want to feel that, or I don't know. I don't want to put any judgment there. So have your joy, have your celebration. I'm not trying to rob or take that away, but also honor. There was a loss there. There was a disruption there. There was something there, right? And that doesn't mean good healing worth. Like I'm here to tell you, like, Mom, if you're watching, I loved my family growing up. I had a great family, and they're my mom and dad. My brother's my brother, even though, growing up he'd be like, I'm Mom and Dad's real son, and then I would say, well, at least they had a choice with me, which is a good comeback. Adoptees, you're welcome.
If you get nothing else,
copyright. I haven't copyrighted it yet. You're free to use it whenever you want to. That's always that's something that's always present. I don't know. I hope that made sense. I'm trying to figure a way to be true to me, but also honor other people's story, because it's all that to say. All this is complicated. It's both joyous and good and heartbreaking and painful. and all those things mixed together. But of course, we know this at Gap Relief, like that's life. That's the
right.
story.
That's right.
We want to pendulate between the reality that life is good and hard.
That's right.
And to think life is good without acknowledging the hard, or think all life is hard without acknowledging good, that's not a honest picture of reality. So yeah, that's what I'd
wonderful.
say.
I feel like you gave us two great gifts today, Andrew. One, the reminder to, and I think this is very true in the adoption framework, but also just a good reminder for life in general is, as often as you can, leave your assumptions at the door, and maybe have a posture of curiosity toward those around you.
Yep.
And then the other gift I feel like you gave us is, we use the language at Gap Relief of balancing darkness with light. And I think to just be able to speak from your perspective and the reality of the importance of balancing darkness with light in life, but in your story, and remembering, yes, there is joy, but that joy began with a loss. And yes, there's joy today, but that loss isn't fully gone from my life as an individual, and I'll carry it with me forever. And I'm okay to find that balance.
Find that tension.
Are you? Will you come into that tension with me? And that was a great gift to me, so thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for taking the time. Thank you for your candor, and for joining us on the show today.
You bet. Thanks for having me.
At Gap Relief, we do a lot of work both with our therapists and coaches around the entire kind of adoption triad, as you may have heard it called. So adoptees, adoptive families, and birth families. If you or somebody you know wants to continue a conversation around this topic, we have a team of amazing people standing by that would love to do that for you. So feel free to reach out. You can find all of our contact on gaprelief.com or find us on social media. Thank you for watching today.